This is the Retro Inc. podcast. Welcome back. Special guest today. We have with us Andy, my co-host. How are you, mate?
Hello, mate. I'm good. You?
Very well, thank you. And Jeremy, how are you, sir?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Very well indeed. And we have a guest with us today, formerly of Talk Star Wars, an old friend of Steve's, with Jeremy of Jeremy's on the show. Steve, welcome, Steve.
Hello, I am becoming schizophrenic, so I could well be an old friend of myself at one point as well. So, hello, nice to be kind of back podcasting.
It's great to have you on this week's show. Jeremy, you've mentioned Steve many a time on the podcast, so any listeners who have heard Jeremy say Steve, I spoke to Steve today, this is the Steve. And we thought we'd get him on because one of the films that is probably one of the highest grossing films of all time, Avatar, is certainly Steve's highest movie in his list. So we're going to talk a little bit about Avatar and also a little bit of the news that James Cameron dropped this week, which is that he was thinking of in the future to make a movie in space, and with the slightly short Tom Cruise. Now, what do you think of that news, Steve, for a start?
Well, I think he's fully short. I think there's no fight about it anymore.
No splitting hairs there, is there?
I don't think he even bothers with boxes anymore to stand on, does he? But he is awesome. I know Jeremy may.
Thank you, mate.
Differ, but I do love a bit of Tom.
Got some backup for a change.
Yeah, it is like having the ultimate movie for me, Tom and James Cameron. I mean, that would be a fantastic union.
Well, he's made a movie Down Below the Depths of the Sea, so I think this is probably his dream kind of film to make up in space. Anyway, we're going to talk Avatar. We've all seen it many a time. There is also the extended cut. And Steve, I would like you to tell us the differences in the extended cut, first of all, and why we need to watch that version of the film. And when did you see it, and who were you with, and why it blew you away?
Okay, well, I never saw it in the movies. The first one that came out at the cinema was only a 16-minute longer version. So the first time I saw the super extended version was on Blu-ray, and it didn't have those annoying sound effects in it, which was awesome. The rat getting a red hot poker up his bum. But it was I think it's around 29 minutes. I can't be sure now, but it's considerably longer. And the main pivotal point in it that's missed from the normal ones, a bit like The Abyss. Mm-hmm. The main scene in The Abyss is the water, the use of the water and the massive wave, which was kind of dropped because I think it was the actual behind the scenes footage in The Abyss is amazing if no one's seen it. But it was mainly dropped because it was felt to be confusing, and it took you out of the action a bit, and it made a dip in the movie. But if you're a fan of the movie, it only goes to enhance it, and that's very much the same for Avatar. But the wave part in Avatar is actually I would say the biggest bit is the school, and the background around Neytiri's sister at the school who gets shot. Spoiler alert, and it kind of. It gives you a lot more information about why Neytiri is really, anti-human. And other than that, there are some great bits in it, but there are lots of smaller incidental parts which make it good.
Sorry, can I just ask, because I watched this last night, and I'm not sure what version I watched because I got it through means. And to me, I haven't seen it for quite some time, although I do know the film quite well. And when the film started, it felt to me there was a lot more set on Earth with Sully.
Yeah.
And there was a few shots of the city and everything. I
Yeah.
take it that's the extended, yeah, because that actually
Absolutely.
gave me more. It sort of built the world of Earth, because you don't really get much of Earth in that time, and you don't really understand its position and where they're sitting and where technology is and where just general life is. And it was very neo future Blade Runner-esque city, and I've never seen that before. And I didn't know if it was just because I just hadn't paid attention, or that clears it up for me.
Yeah,
Are we
no,
right in
that
saying
was
as well that before this extra footage as well, we see him with his legs, the use of his legs before he loses them, and how he loses them?
No, you don't see
No.
any of that. You that's a really good point Andy makes there. You do see it's very Blade Runner with a pinch of everything in it. But one of the key moments that you see on Earth, because you do see the brother in the box on the original one, but you also see some back footage of or some news going on about tigers getting cloned. And
that's what I noticed. Yeah.
You know, and
I did see that. I did see that bit.
Yeah, it sort of builds that world a bit more, doesn't it? Through context, it explains, like I say, the position of where we sit technologically in that era. And because all you see in the film is he basically, he hasn't got his legs, his brother's dead, they need him for this experiment, and he gets shipped off. And in that small, probably 30 seconds to 40 seconds extra that I got, I understood what Earth was like, the technological advances we've made with cloning, because as it said, Bengal tigers has been extinct for 100 years, and they were making a comeback through cloning. And it was just the way it was set up. You see that fight in the bar, which I think you see in the original.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. I don't think you do, because it gives you the background that he, at heart, he is like a wannabe hero. He can't help himself.
He's fighting for the underdog there, wouldn't he?
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, I think I've got a feeling that the woman reading the news article out about the tigers is Sigourney Weaver. I'm not 100%, but I think
okay.
I'm not 100% on that.
I'll
but
have to go back and look at that.
But
yeah, there was a couple of things I noticed in there that sort of slipped my memory now, but it was that bar fight as well, because I thought I'd seen it, but I don't know whether it was elongated for this cut, because I'm sure I've seen that before, but I haven't seen the other bit. So unless there's a couple
of I don't remember seeing it at the cinema. I first saw it at the cinema in 3D when it came out, and I don't remember seeing
the
that
extended edition, so I wouldn't know now.
Right, I'm gonna have to go back and look, because like I say, to me I can't see where they fit because I know that I remember two men talking to Sully saying, we need you to come with us, it's your brother. But unless they reshot a scene and put something else in there, I can't think of any other way that was done, because obviously he's laying in the gutter in the alleyway.
Yeah.
He says to him,
I'm with you,
and they say, Sully, and he goes, oh yeah, just to make my day a little worse or something, don't rain on my day. And I just, that little bit before that actually drew me in. I really enjoyed it, and I don't know why things like that get taken out sometimes.
This is it. It's all runtime. It's to enable them to get 3 showings a day instead of 2. That's the main, economical drive behind it. It's more it's more who's Avatar now? Is it Disney? I can't remember now. It's owned by now, but I'm not
Paramount, isn't it?
Paramount, yeah, it could be. So it's more their drive there. But the good thing about special editions with Cameron is that all the stuff they get rid of is so good that it blends so well back into the movie. You can't tell and won't ever know why they took it out, because it's all good stuff.
It's 20th Century Fox. There you go. So
yeah,
will be Disney.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, but it is in true Avatar, Cameron fashion. It's put back in, and I would imagine there's another 3 hours of stuff somewhere on the cutting room floor, that he didn't put in. But it's such good stuff. It almost makes you want to, with Cameron, just keep making special editions until you've got like a 9-hour film. Nice. I'd be quite happy with that.
Well, there was that thing, wasn't we were talking about? We saw that meme, and it was like, someone makes a 9-hour film, and everyone says nobody will watch it, but you'll quite happily watch a whole series in one go on Netflix of something.
Yeah, you'll binge watch that. I watched Lord of the Rings the other day in one day.
Nice. I've done that before once. It hurt.
Yeah, it was on Netflix, but I didn't have the special editions. I gave my DVDs away for some crazy reason, but it was still good. But I missed all the stuff. Actually, Peter Jackson, I missed all the stuff they took out.
Yeah, it's nice.
Was you going to say something?
Well, I think before we go any further, let's have a little recap of the first trailer.
You Jake Sully?
I'd like to talk to you about a fresh start on a new world. You'd be making a difference.
I became a Marine for the hardship. I told myself I can pass any test a man can pass. All I ever wanted was a single thing worth fighting for.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are not in Kansas anymore. You are on Pandora.
You should see your faces.
We have an indigenous population called the Na'vi. They are very hard to kill.
This is why we're here. Because this little gray rock sells for 20 million a kilo. Their village happens to be resting on the richest deposit, and they need to relocate. Those savages are threatening our whole operation. We're on the brink of war, and you're supposed to be finding a diplomatic solution.
The concept is to drive these remotely controlled bodies called avatars. They're grown from human DNA, mixed with DNA of the natives.
Marine in an avatar body. That's a potent mix. You get me what I need, I'll see to it you get your legs back. Your real legs.
Hell yeah, sir.
Looks like you. This is your avatar.
Just relax and let your mind go blank. It shouldn't be hard for you.
Jake, it's real simple. I want you to learn from the inside. I want you to gain their trust.
You should not be here. Go back. All this is your fault.
I need your help. Outstanding.
Haven't gotten lost in the woods, have you?
Did you forget what team you're playing for?
Strong prey on the weak, and nobody does a thing.
You've got 1 hour.
You knew this would happen?
Everything changed. Jake, it's crazy here. Quaritch is rolling and there's no stopping him.
We're going up against gunships with bows and arrows.
Well, I guess we better stop him.
They've sent us a message that they can take whatever they want. But we will send them a message that this is our land.
And we're back. And Jeremy, your memories from watching this film the first time, who did you go and see it with? And
I saw it with
saw it?
a guy called Drew Daniels, who I worked with, because I didn't have anyone else to go with, and we both wanted to go and watch it. And it blew me away in the cinema. It was just unbelievable. The 3D really tucked you into. I mean, when there's dust particles flying around, you really do think that you pluck them out of the air and you've got a duck at points. And it is an incredible cinematic journey that you go on. But then I think when I got the Blu-ray, my first ever Blu-ray was Avatar, and then it's just a movie after that.
Andy, how many times do you think you've seen this film? When did you first see it? And
I've
your memories of it?
lost count how many times I've seen it, mate. One extra last night because I watched it again. I saw this at the cinema more than I think I've seen anything else, and that includes, I know I've seen it more than I've seen the current Star Wars films. And I think I said this before when we were talking about it recently, that I went to see it the first time, and I hate 3D movies. So I went to see it in I went to see it on the opening night, and I only managed to do 3D, standard 3D, and I saw it, and it kind of took away from it for a bit. And then I went to see it in 2D, thoroughly enjoyed it. And one of my friends said to me, "You've got to go IMAX." He said, "Trust me, you've got to go see it in IMAX." And I tell you what, I have never seen anything that effective. That use of that 3D in IMAX was stunning. When they go through the jungles and you have the bioluminescent plants falling through the trees and everything, it was like I could reach out and touch them. The way he layered that 3D effect into that movie. I must have seen it another 1 or 2 times as well. So at least 4 or 5 at the cinema. And since then, it's one of those mainstays. If I'm bored and there's nothing on, I'll happily put it on because it just looks beautiful as well. And last night when I watched it on my new TV, it was stunning. Yeah. It was absolutely gorgeous. Those colours were popping out. It's a family show. None of that. Thank you, Jeremy. But it's it's absolutely gorgeous movie, mate. And I can watch it again and again and again.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. Yeah. Like everything you just said is basically how I feel. It's got the T2 effect, isn't it? What I call it, which is when if T2's on the telly, it doesn't matter what time it is or when it is, you'll watch the whole thing, and it will be like, it doesn't matter that I've seen Terminator 2, I don't know, 100 times. It's just one of those perfectly poised and perfectly presented and made movies that is like a work of art. It's like a recipe, isn't it? That works every time.
Well, I think that you've just hit another little keynote there, work of art, because this was apart from watching Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith at the cinema and literally coming out after and going straight back in, this was the only other film I've ever seen outside the Star Wars universe where I've literally returned from my seat and gone back in again. And I watched this at Gunwharf Quays in Portsmouth with my ex-brother-in-law, and it was, as you say, when you're sitting in that perfect area, Jeremy, in the cinema when you're watching this thing in 3D and you're getting... So, Steve, what are they called? Those little kind of jellyfish that come from the tree that are floating around.
Oh God, that's a good question.
The spirit of the tree, aren't they, or something? They.
Oh, you mean the seeds of the the tree? Yeah, I can't remember what they're called. It'll come to me in a minute.
Truly magical.
Call yourself a fan.
That was the first time I'd seen. I think the first time I'd seen that kind of three-dimensional cinematography, and it was pure, totally, completely mind-blowing.
I do want to say Okran, but I'm not sure if somebody can Google it. Something Okran.
Now, the other thing you just said about almost art is that the floating islands when they're flying through on Pandora in that helicopter, that was based upon an artist called Roger Dean's artwork. You're aware of Roger Dean. Roger Dean is the artist that did the album covers for the band Yes and Asia. He was around predominantly in the 60s and 70s doing artwork for Virgin record label, and he did this beautiful landscape fantasy art, and they based that actually on his work. So the original runtime, Steve, was 162 minutes, which is an extremely long film for at the time. To go in to see a really big movie like that, it kept you on the edge of your seat. And one of the things that was hugely important to Cameron was putting across the ecological backstory. Now, yourself being, a pretty strict vegan and someone who loves nature, how did that seem to you?
So for me, obviously, with that background, you're absolutely right. It does strike a chord with me anyway. But when you're talking about all the extras you get with these Cameron, DVDs and Blu-rays and stuff, it was even more poignant because Cameron was in the Amazon while he was filming Avatar for research, and obviously a lot of the tribal language was researched in the Amazon basin. And the actors went down there with him to get a feel for tribal culture and all the rest of it. It was actually at a time when a huge section of the Amazon was being flooded for a dam, and like loads of native people were getting displaced by the government, forced out, which is basically a microcosm of what happens in Avatar. So it was really, really relevant.
And
and my passion is
is the rainforest. Even though I do local wildlife work, I work with the World Land Trust to raise money and awareness for saving rainforests. It's one of the main things I do.
Good man.
And so yeah, it did strike a chord. But I think even if I wasn't that into it, I think the film is still absolutely amazing. But yeah, it's even better for me knowing that really.
Andy,
Yes.
what significantly stood out about about Avatar for you that really kind of resonated?
Well, the first time I watched it?
Or just the last time you watched it? I mean, what still kind of really stands out? How do you feel the CG stands up?
I'm glad you asked that, actually. Not great, but it's still not bad by any stretch of the imagination. I think when it was made, it was 2009 it was released, wasn't it? So obviously this was production for a few years. It looked beautiful back then, didn't it? It looked phenomenal. We didn't have anything like that. And things progress, they do, naturally. And of course it's going to look dated at some point, and it does. But that doesn't stop any film, as we full well know. If Jeremy can sit there and watch Attack of the Killer Mushroom People from Outer Space 4, and he can enjoy it, then it doesn't matter what it looks like, does it? I mean, you look at A New Hope, and still...
that a lot of my terrible movie choices are probably Stephen's fault, because we grew up together watching terrible movies like Razorback and Godzilla vs. the Smog Monster and all these
exactly, though.
Terrible movies. That's Steve's fault, not mine.
But case in point, you still enjoy them regardless of what they look like, and that doesn't take that away from Avatar. I mean, like I say, I watched this in 4K for the first time, and it is gorgeous. It is absolutely stunning. The colours pop. It's beautiful. It's visceral. Doesn't mean it has to look like it did in 2000. It's not going to look like it did in 2009. It's nearly 10 years old now. You tell me any film that's 10 years old. Yeah, well, no, some of them still look fantastic. Yeah,
and I think it's how much time they gave them. Like, if you look at some of the close-ups of Neytiri's face and her mum, like there's a scene where she's crying, her mum's crying when she goes to cut them off when they're strung up, and there's some really close-ups of Neytiri when she's got her war paint on. They are the best CGI I've ever seen, even up to date.
I agree.
Obviously, in those days, they couldn't do it all like that because it took £1 million for 5 seconds and about a month's work.
Yeah.
But now you can do it in a couple of days.
But I noticed it there's a couple of bits, like the whole scene of Sigourney Weaver when she first comes out of the pod and she's smoking. That cigarette is all CGI. That is not a real cigarette. Yeah, that is all rendered CGI because she doesn't smoke. That. So that's rendered. And also the bit that actually didn't look good at all to me was when Jake first comes off of the ship and they land on Pandora. There's a couple of the grunts standing around, and one of them, his face just does not.
Yeah, but you know that all those glass shields are all CGI.
Yeah, I
know.
Yeah. Some of them look okay.
And I know what you mean. Yeah.
There's just doesn't. It looks like I'm watching a cutscene from a video game. But it doesn't take you out of the movie. Like I say, it's about storytelling and writing, and the film itself. And Avatar does all of that well enough that I can forgive it its faults, because it tried to do something nothing else had done to that scale, and it did it well.
And I
Can I just point out Sigourney Weaver did smoke in Aliens, so she's given up. Good on her.
Yeah, well,
when she comes out of hibernation.
Maybe that's why, mate. Maybe she didn't want to touch it. Maybe she was like, I don't want a cigarette in my hand, and
that's pretty good. I never knew that was CGI.
Yeah,
that's pretty good going. I mean, in a way, I'm glad that the CGI doesn't stand up perfectly to today. Otherwise, the next film won't be as groundbreaking.
Fair point. I
want to be wowed. And like, to all those naysayers who say Avatar's going to flop because no one cares about it anymore, and we've got 3 out of 4 people here who absolutely can't wait. I mean, that's utter rubbish, all that.
No, 4 out of 4. I can't wait for it.
Right. Okay.
I'm not poo-pooing Avatar.
Yeah, see, I'm on the fence of how it's going to perform, Steve. I think we'd be naive to think it would do the same figures as the last movie, because the last movie did what it did because of how groundbreaking it was and because of the multiple re-releases of that film. And that is why it did so well, because that film was released over a period of 1.5 years, several times in different formats, in different versions. And people like myself went back to those movies. You look at something like The Force Awakens. Now, if they released that again with an extra 15 minutes of footage in it, that would probably be up there as the second or first highest grossing film of all time because of that. So I think, it would definitely take in at least half of its money again on top of it with a re-release. And Avatar did that several times, and that's fair enough and it deserves its acclaim that it's got because of what it is. But I think with these films, we're going to be looking at more realistic figures of a sort of a Deadpool 2, maybe more. That's sort of,
I'm going to put my head
800.
on the top, and I'm going to say it's going to be Avatar. Because I think that all the people that are culturally want to absorb Avatar can't be asked, or a little bit older, and can't be asked to fight off people online. But they're just going to go. And you know what? This is the Titanic effect. Titanic was always going to be a flop. The studio thought it was going to be a flop. It ended up with Cameron putting in 20 million of his own money just to keep it afloat. And look what happened to it.
It was terrible.
It's awesome.
It's a great film, Titanic.
I have to say, I like James Cameron movies, but when Titanic, that made me kind of go, really? And I've had a lifelong dislike of Leonardo DiCaprio since then as well. So
I don't understand why you can be so vitriolic about Titanic. It's awesome. For what it is, a romantic film. It's a mockumentary in a way.
It's just not romantic.
But it's lovely. I mean, it made me cry.
I've dreamed my whole life someone like DiCaprio to ask me to draw me like one of his French girls. Like, really have. That is a romantic film. It's a beautiful film. It's stunning. It's a little overlong. I get that. It's hard.
And there was enough room for two people on that bit wood at the end.
With everything.
We do, Steve.
We couldn't have our own podcast. It'd be so boring.
You're
right. Yeah, you're right as well. What should we talk about now?
I see Titanic 5 times at the cinema when it first came out.
Mm-hmm.
Then I went a few years ago because it was in 3D, and I wanted to see Kate Winslet's boobs in 3D, and I was not disappointed.
Do you know Kate Winslet? The only thing she gets offended by is when people get that picture of her on the chaise lounge, and they ask her to sign it. She will not sign it because it's inappropriate. But everything else she'll sign.
I remember rushing to see Titanic at the cinema, and again going back the second time. But I really do remember going to WH Smith and Virgin and HMV to pick up the VHS.
Yeah, queuing up
and get the poster that came with it. Oh, HMV have got an extra this and extra that. And I remember picking up all of those extra little bits and pieces.
Yeah.
It was great. It was such a seminal film. Let's talk about the cast of Avatar, because one of the key things I think is that it has these two. Am I right in saying protagonists? The two kind of baddies that are in this. There's the young guy who's trying to mine for this this ore, if you like, that's under the tree, and you've obviously got the military guy who's just fantastic. Now, both names escape me of the actors' names.
Giovanna Ribisi and Stephen Lang.
Thank you very much. They were brilliant, both of them, and it was unusual to have two almost evil guys, really, isn't it? In any film, you don't often get that.
Yeah, and Stephen Lang's coming back, and I have my own theory about that.
Okay.
You can hear it on Talk Star Wars from about 2 years ago, and I still think it's the case. Well, I don't think Stephen Lang was ever in Avatar.
Well, when I heard this news,
I think he's always been an Avatar, and he was safe up in orbit on the spaceship.
Right.
Do you think
that's
the way
controlling an avatar of himself?
I like that.
Or do you think?
Or he's a clone.
Yeah, could be a clone, perhaps.
Well, that is an avatar, isn't it?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Well, no, because the clone is an independent person, isn't he?
Oh, I see what you mean.
He's not being controlled by someone else. I mean, there could be a whole fleet of like the Tigers.
But then they never actually go on about the cloning in this. Avatars are just avatars. We just assume through context that the scientists have learned how to grow these things that we can manipulate. They never stipulate if a clone and an avatar are two different things, then they need to have truly expressed in the main version.
That's what the tiger thing was, wasn't it?
Yeah, but that's not even
Stephen Lang, the character, could be lovely. He might be in space, cooking a quiche and wearing a pinny.
Well, it's just
he couldn't because he's probably a vegan.
Well, he might come back even more wonderful then.
The great Zoe Saldana is obviously in this film as well, and she's just
Well, she's
fantastic.
freed up now, isn't she, to do what she wants?
Well, what's happened to Zoe? Is she free now? She can go back on my allowed list.
She's not in that way. No, unfortunately, because of the problematic James Gunn and the Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
No, more for the fact that Jeremy threw her off a cliff.
Oh, well, he did indeed.
I'm not Thanos.
Oh, that's what you did there.
Do you know
Sorry.
what? If I was Thanos and I was, I'd tell people I wasn't Thanos. Just saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do only click with my right hand. I must admit, this one's fine.
There's no cards in Jeremy's house, just in case he ever brings them out and says, "Anyone fancy Snap?"
Steve,
you understand that because you're rubbish at cards.
Crib, I have you at crib anytime.
You never beat me at crib. Don't give me that rubbish.
Steve, are there any Easter eggs in this film, so to speak, that have any hints towards, anything else that Cameron has done? I mean, obviously, so often
he doesn't really do that.
Does he put anything in?
Yeah, he's not. He doesn't really. I love Easter eggs, but he doesn't really do nods, does he? He's not into that. Cameron's very much closed box, isn't he? He's like, look, this is my bit of art for today, and that I don't believe there are any. I can't think of any, but that might not be the case. But it's not something that I immediately think of with Cameron.
So in this extended cut, it's an extra. Is it 37 minutes? This extra cut.
Yeah, that's about right.
So tell us what else, without sort of, it doesn't really matter spoiler wise if you haven't seen Avatar. Tell us what else is in this extended cut. That's
another big one,
notable.
The big one that springs to mind, which is again why they took it out. There's a fantastic CGI. There's all CGI, but a really stunning bit of CGI when they're hunting the herd of buffalo they're supposed to be representing on Earth. And it's this kind of rite of passage when he shoots them. But that is a really great scene. Shortly after he's won over his Ocaran, I think it's an Ocaran, isn't it? And he's hunting with Neytiri, and it also shows that he kind of outdoes the main guy in the tribe that's going to inherit the tribe. That's another really, really big key point that I can think of. I'll try and think of some more as we go through, but that's quite a pivotal scene as well. I think that and the school are the two big things that stick to mind, that come to mind. Can you think of any more, Andy?
No, to be honest with you,
they're all little tiny incidental bits all the way through, aren't they? I've noticed
a lot of them are just the same scene, but a little bit longer, aren't they?
Yeah,
a few extra seconds here and there, and
yeah. Another big one is when they destroy the fleet of tractors.
Okay.
And that is actually really pivotal because it's why they decided to bring the tree down earlier, because they attacked those, because they destroyed the little I don't know, what would you call it? I'm going to say internet cafe. The little group of trees. Yeah. It was a listening post and part of the whole the god, I've just forgotten everything about Avatar. Awa, thank you, James. Calling out Avatar. Awa, it's like a key thing for Awa, but that's another really, really good scene. I would have liked some more in space, but they never did it. And I think the next one, hopefully we're going to see, I'd love to see a fleet of ships coming in from Earth again in the next one. Mm-hmm. That would be amazing, because it's about that time. I think this is a 6-year trip, isn't it? So about 12 years back to Earth and back. Mm-hmm. So I think I think we're going to see some spacey stuff, which would be amazing. Well, maybe with Tom Cruise in it.
There is a couple of Easter eggs, Adam. There is a couple of little Easter eggs, but they're more personal rather than for the fans. So Sigourney Weaver's character wears a Stanford University top, where she went to university. The date of the film where the final battle takes place is 200 years from the date of Cameron's birth. So it works out around about August 2154. So, and also the Awa is a mixed up pronunciation of the Hebrew god of the Hebrews, which is Yahweh. There's just a few for you. There you go.
We've all seen Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. We know that. Oh, is it Jehovah?
Which is the worst of those ones?
Yeah, well, that's a massive tangent. Did you really want to go down there?
So how do you see these?
That's a good Easter egg.
Steve, how do you see these next three films kind of going then? Because obviously the final couple of scenes, we see obviously Sigourney Weaver's character becoming one with the tree. Do you think we'll maybe get her returning in some kind of ghostly form?
Yeah. I mean, the early buzz was it was going to be a prequel kind of flashback kind of idea. But she's in with Awa at the moment, but they'll have her DNA on file. They've only got to whack out another avatar, then download her from Awa, and she's back in the game. So,
okay.
I think it's possible that either could happen. I'd love to see. I mean, she's been brilliant in it. I'm not sure if it's retconned and they ever had all of this story planned out, but it wouldn't surprise me with Cameron, because the thing about Avatar is it's a standalone movie. It starts and it finishes, and it's an entire story in its own right.
Yes.
It wouldn't surprise me if he thought, crikey, this has been successful, we need more, how can I retcon it all back? But in its own right, it works as a standalone. But I mean, it's more interesting. Yeah, they're basically saying, unless the whole lot it happens before Avatar. No, because the kids are in it, aren't they? James.
Yeah, no, it is a sequel to Avatar, but the original ending of Avatar was going to have Neytiri pregnant with Sully's child. But obviously,
I saw that and the extras.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's something they'll do for this one. But I'm just having a quick look on this on IMDb. And did you know that Kate Winslet is actually in this? Yeah, I didn't know that. She's been, and David Thewlis as well.
I have my own theory about why they're blue and why they're all CGI.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
One thing Cameron never does is bow to political correctness, but it gives him a fantastic opportunity to just hire any actors he thinks are suitable for the parts, regardless of their colour or their gender fluidness or all this other stuff that we have to, rightly so, we have to kind of, get accustomed to these days. But because they're all CGI, it doesn't really matter. So blue's a pretty neutral colour, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's a very good theory, and I agree. I think it's why does it matter at the end of the day if who they are? Does it really?
Well, I could break that theory if you want.
Go
it was
ahead.
all about a dream that his mum had about big blue tall people. That's what he based it on. But yeah, yours works as well.
I mean, it does get him out of that whole thing about hiring this many white people. Because I don't care. You hire them based on their acting skills. I don't care who they are. And if they're any good, we'll have them in the movie and we'll.
Yeah, but it's a bit doggist, isn't it, having them all look like cats? What about those poor dogs?
Well, yeah, there is that. Yeah, that's.
One of the things that I think links really well with Aliens is the kind of seminal butch, strong female character that always is a bit gung ho. So you have the helicopter pilot,
Michelle Rodriguez.
Thank you. Yeah,
who isn't coming back? Is she?
A helicopter crashed clearly, didn't it? And of course we have the character in Aliens, and he seems to like that, having this very strong.
Sarah Connor as well, didn't you? You've always had them.
Well,
and also
we have it with Terry anyway.
In True Lies.
Yeah.
She rocked.
Yeah.
And fair.
Piranha 2, there was a woman in that.
Yeah, but she got eaten.
It was baby steps. He was learning.
I mean, he's always been way ahead of his time. He always saw women. I think Cameron always sees women like I do, which is, look, men have had their chance in this world. We screwed everything up. We screwed the planet up. We go to war all the time. We can't iron, really. Jeremy's the only person I know that irons fast and well. I can iron a shirt in an hour.
Jeremy irons.
Do you know what? I think we're cut from the same cloth here, Steve. Because I say this to my wife all the time, that the true people that run this world are the women. Yeah. Let's be honest. Without them, we would fall apart. I think honestly, we'd be burning fires in the street, rioting, and all wearing loincloths without them.
We've had our chance. Let women sort the world out now. Yeah. You know what? I'm quite happy with that. because otherwise we'll have no world. We might as well let the fairer sex.
Listen to you two. Look, welcome to the Mutual Hugs podcast. We just agree with each other.
We can't help it that we're both awesome, can we?
We're just not trying to be difficult, Jeremy. That's all. Yeah, I know sometimes.
Not trying to be difficult.
Me, but you just think I'm gonna. I nearly had to.
I was just wondering. Do you think Tom Cruise thinks he's living on the planet with all the Navy? Because, they're all 9 foot.
See, I've got this. The thing is about Tom Cruise, right? My wife's the same. She can't stand him, right? He's an actor. I don't care what he does in real life. As long as he's not rogering a hedgehog, I don't care. Like, he's a brilliant actor who makes fantastic movies.
They're too big for him.
He might ride hedgehogs, but he doesn't roger them.
The last of the hedgehog riders. Like a hobbit.
Well,
you were there in the Five
he
Armies.
might get a prick up his bottom, but other than that, it's, he can do all he likes in my book.
Steve, back in the day, you obviously watched a lot of films with Jeremy, but let's have a little look at, and listen to what your kind of top 10 is. Reel off some films that, you still watch today and have watched repeatedly over the years, and what your faves on TV are.
Well, I'll give you my favourite current TV. We've just finished it. The Haunting on Haunting of Hill House.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Which I thought was fantastic.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's one. I hope they don't do a second series. The biggest sin in anything modern is that they release more and more series until they kill it to death, and it's horrible.
It does say
Stranger Things, yeah.
Stranger Things, perfect example.
Yeah.
In the past, I mean, obviously it's Terminator, Terminator 2, True Lies, The Abyss, 1988, probably up there jostling with Titanic and Contact for the top 3 of all time. Another film that was so ahead of its time. The action is relentless, the practical effects and the use of effects outside of the CG world, other than the tentacle, were just phenomenal. And the stuff they went through, Ed Harris nearly dying when they made it. So there's a great so Cameron's deep-seated in there. The stuff that I used to watch with Jeremy is very B-movie-esque, and we love that.
Yes.
We really like that. All the martial arts movies we used to watch, and the like you said about Godzilla movies. They were just, we loved them, because when you're young, it's all the crappy CGI and effects. It doesn't matter, because your brain fills in all the stuff.
And you're new to it. You're new to it, so it doesn't really matter, does it?
Yeah, it doesn't. And in our imaginations, the films were amazing. Phantasm we used to watch, and Extro.
I mentioned that the other week, Phantasm. How that was the first horror movie that I ever properly watched. Was sitting in your farm, being terrified of the woods.
It's where J.J. Abrams got Captain Phasma's name from, wasn't it? Because she was all shiny and metallic, and of course he got that.
That's interesting.
Phantasm, yeah.
And Extro was another quite scary. If I watched it now, I wouldn't even turn my head. Haunting the Hill House is the only thing in the last God knows how long to give me a shock scare, not a scare, but it did work on a few occasions. I won't give the spoiler, but anyone who's seen it, if they think the car scene, they'll know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. It was really, completely.
I mean, Jeremy, I don't know if Jeremy should share this with you another time, but he can give you his UFO story when he rode home from my house one night.
I'll do that one day.
One day you've got to share that. But we did used to love. There was a film about a snake that we used to watch all the time, a black mamba. I can't remember what it was
Venom.
called.
That was called Venom.
And anything with Sylvester Stallone in it.
Pardon?
Anything with Sylvester Stallone. Total Recall we used to watch every week.
Yeah.
I mean, every week. And
what do you think of the reboot of that, the remake?
That was awful.
How dare you?
Yeah, and it was not awful. If it came out now, it would be like a one-off movie you watch and go, that was all right. But you can't, I don't know. Look,
Jeremy in his sort of love for Doctor Who?
No, do you know what? In the tapes we did, because I remember listening to Tom Baker, "Hello, Dolly."
Yeah, that was the Pescatons. Yeah,
Return of the Pescatons, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
I used to love the audio tapes.
Yeah,
I never really got into Doctor Who. It's a bit. What's the word? Kitsch, is it?
The kitsch, perhaps.
You did like the A-Team with me. We used to watch a lot of the A-Team.
Yeah, 18. Jeremy and I literally had our first orgasm when someone died in one of the episodes.
Yeah.
We're like, oh my God, the world's coming to an end. Someone's died in the A-Team.
So, Kate, I mean, obviously you're a part of the Talk Star Wars podcast in the very early stages. How do you? I mean, I don't know.
Transgender.
There was that moment. So how do you? Are you looking forward to seeing Episode 9? What did you think of The Last Jedi? And how often do you watch a Star Wars movie now?
Never. And I won't be seeing Episode 9 because I've decided that unless a movie is going to be an art form created by someone's idea who then managed to put it on canvas and not 1,000 people's input, and it's purely a financial venture and not an art form, I won't go and see it. Right. I might watch it on Netflix in a few years and think, oh, that's 2 hours I'll never get back. But I won't be watching any more Star Wars films. I might, the original trilogy, if they were on, all day long. Because that's Steven Spielberg's, George Lucas's imagination. He fought for it. He got what he wanted, and that's your film, which was awesome. Like, they were long
of the OT, Steve, the original trilogy. What's your order of enjoyment?
Oh,
because
of my embeddedness when we were young, sneaking into the cinema and watching it all day long. Return of the Jedi is the
exactly the same as mine. Yeah,
you know that's and then Empire and then A New Hope.
Agree.
Everyone's got their thumbs up.
Yeah, it's the same for me, mate. I grew up on Jedi. They were the toys I had. I grew up on Jedi, and it was always my favourite. And honestly, even to this day, A New Hope is still up there because it's Star Wars. I think it's that.
I was going to say one of the movies that keeps coming up regularly when I talk to people of our kind of age is they always bring Jedi up, and yet everyone is going, "Oh, Empire's my film," and I'm like, well, actually,
no,
you know what?
Empire's not.
I think for a lot of people, I think Return of the Jedi has got more.
You know
fun.
what, Jedi?
It's more fun.
It made me duck in the cinema. I'd never done that before. You know, in the woods.
In the woods, yeah.
Speeder bikes. You don't. We were ducking under logs, and it was like 4D.
Yeah.
You know, it actually made you feel like you were in it. And it's just, and the scenes with, when they're attacking the second Death Star and they come out of, hyperspace and light speed, they call it, but it's not really, is it? They just come out and it's proper light speed where it just stops dead in front of the camera. And it's like, whoa, this is like really good. And the hundreds of X-Wings coming towards you. It was groundbreaking. And Empire and New Hope had that. But they took it to another level in Jedi. I know you had the Ewoks, and it was a little bit.
There's nothing
I
wrong
like
with
the Ewoks.
But they're all right.
Yeah.
I love Ewoks as a concept. These little tiny furry creatures can take down the Empire. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? It's about.
We're going back to Avatar again, aren't we? Is that these very native people overthrow the mechanics of modern man landing on a planet and the sort of again their spears against these huge Tonka trucks,
Yeah, no,
it's the Ewoks did exactly the same thing.
Because I think it's like the message is, no matter how much technology you've got, if somebody gets it in their mind to climb over the fence behind my house and then chop a few wires, no one in this area has got mobile. And they'll all be like, oh my God, I'm dying. I can't use my phone. And I'd be out there with a spear jabbing, I don't know, meat eaters.
Yeah, trees. Like trees.
One album that I've been playing quite a lot in my car recently, I've been listening a lot to Jeff Lynne's War of the Worlds. And I think what really fascinated me was the look on my son's face, who's coming up 13, when there's this realization that these mechanical objects from Mars have lost the war to bacteria, nature itself.
Yeah. I always remember my granddad. It's one of my favourite memories of my granddad, who was actually a prisoner of war for the whole 5 years in the Second World War. But he had great stories as a result. But he always, when I first watched War of the Worlds, it was with him. And he told me, he did a little quiz beforehand, and he said, "What do you think defeats them?" And it isn't something technological. And I never got it. And at the end, I was like,
It makes perfect sense.
It does.
Yeah.
It does make perfect sense.
You can't
This is
beat
what we talk
nature.
about. These tribes in me and my wife are talking about. You know, the aid worker that got shot on that island recently by the natives in, I think it was India.
Serves him right. Yeah.
It serves him right. He shouldn't have been going there. There's a reason why you don't go there. Because not only if he'd have gone there, imagine those germs that he would have taken with him, that they over the millennia of being untouched. And not
That's what the
acclimatized. So he could have
conquistadors
killed
did,
that
wasn't it?
whole. Yeah, it's exactly that.
Yeah.
Went over and wiped out a whole civilization through germs.
Which is
And
exactly what we're going to do to the universe when we start spreading.
we are just a disease, aren't we? At the end of the day.
Get rid of all the bacteria on a spaceship. Like, if you've got it inside you, even bacteria in our stomachs. That might kill off an entire planet for all we know.
Exactly.
Steve, one of the movies you cited earlier was Contact. Have you seen the film Arrival? And
Arrival is. I watched it
Yeah.
less 3 days ago on Netflix. It's out on Netflix now, or any other social media film platform. But yeah, another film that doesn't give you too much, and it's like, oh, that's what an imagination's for. And that's what I love. I love to think, and both of those films make you think, and they don't give you anything. My wife would hate this. She has to have the whole ending and it finishing perfectly. I kind of like the fact, like in Contact, was she making it up? Was she? I mean, obviously, you know in your heart it was real because you saw her, but then, and then they say about the 18 hours of the recording, and it's like, great. And you have to think, and then what happens next, And another great example of that, and Arrival's the same, because you realise it happened beforehand, but you want to know what happens next. And a perfect example of that is Shawshank. He's driving down the road, I hope, and then you're like, I want to know what happens next. You just see him cuddling from a distance, and I've seen that bit on my 65 inch. You can see it even better, but they do have a proper hug on the beach. But you want to know what happens afterwards, and that's where your imagination comes in.
Yes.
You can do what you like then with it.
Interstellar.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, I mean, I've watched Interstellar probably, I would say 25 times, and it never gets boring. It's the whole...
It's the first time I've disagreed with you all night. This is...
Really?
Yeah.
No Interstellar. See, I never liked it at first, but the more
Inception.
Inception's good. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's as good as Interstellar for me, but yeah, another really good concept.
And again, has got a great ending to it. That's those endings, isn't it? With the totem just spinning on the table and it cuts. And I love that.
Well, it just starts to wobble, doesn't it?
Yeah. Or does it? Because if you actually watch it closely, is that your imagination? Was that? I don't know. It's a really strange...
Is the spoon bending?
Yeah, it's... Another film that does that very similar is another DiCaprio. Sorry, Jeremy, this is probably a really bad night for you tonight. But Shutter Island.
Yes,
with that.
indeed. Yeah.
That was terrible.
I've only seen that once, and I can't really remember it.
Great film.
But imagine a really boring, predictable film with Leonardo DiCaprio based on an island in a lunatic asylum, and then you think, I bet this will happen after 5 minutes, and it does. You save yourself 2 hours.
I'll have to watch it again.
Steve, let's
it doesn't ring a bell, so it's probably not.
Let's hear your views, and Jeremy, you have to keep very quiet on this, please. Okay. Blade Runner 2049 and Blade Runner. What are your thoughts on those two films?
Is this for me?
It is.
Okay, so look, and when you're watching films and when was Blade Runner? 79 was it? I think
82, wasn't it?
82.
So I'm 10, 11, actually 9, 10, 11 years old. They are ingrained in you. And if I'd have watched Blade Runner when I was 30, I'd have thought, that's a bit out there. It's a bit weird, but yeah, it's interesting. The Blade Runner was groundbreaking because it just felt real when you're that age. They got away with it because they made it dark, they made it rainy, all tricks that they employed in those days to cover up a lack of technological breakthrough in movie making and money. But it worked amazingly well. And it was, you could have, I believed in it completely, and it was embedded in me. So, yeah, I liked 2049. I thought it was good. I hated the CGI. It took me out of the film. You talk about technology ruining it. The CGI version of her, again, was just awful. And they got an actress that looked like her a little bit, and then put it over her, but her features were all over the place. And it just, I was like, oh, why did they CGI? Give me the back of her head rather than crap CGI. You know,
I'll agree with you there on the use of that, because if you're going to do it and it's not right, do the back of the head. But we was watching Rogue One yesterday, me and my wife, and I was looking at Tarkin in it, and I said to her, it's not perfect, but it's perfect, because if Peter Cushing wasn't in this as Tarkin and they used somebody else, I don't want them doing that. It's got to be Peter, because that would take me more out of the movie, it not being Peter Cushing. But if you put this in and you've got Peter Cushing looking like he does, that's fine, because it's a nice homage to him, and I'd rather that than nothing at all or somebody else.
Yeah.
But
I mean, they're still in Uncanny Valley, aren't they?
They are, but if they could have just done that bit where he's standing looking at the glass, like you say, the back of the headshot, there would be none of this discussion. People would have gone, that was fantastic.
And you
Peter
just see the
Cushing was in
reflection
that.
in the glass of his face.
It's when he starts to be a little bit more animated and have a few more lines that it starts to fall over it, like fall on its own sword a little bit. But when it's just him standing there, it's great.
I did think Leia was all right. I thought she was better than Tarkin, if I'm honest.
But that I think is because of the time, Stephen. I think this is my point: is Tarkin's on there for so long, it gives your brain enough time to go, "There's something wrong here."
Yeah.
Whereas when you see Leia, she turns around and says, "Hope," and that's it. That's all we get, and it's enough. And it doesn't give you enough time to go, "Where's the problems here?"
Yeah. No, you're right.
You know.
Right. But a lot of people did have a problem with her, but she wouldn't have had a problem with her.
What Star Wars fans had a problem with a Star Wars film and were vocal about it. I've never heard anything like this before.
I know, going back to Star Wars, I do desperately want to like them. I'm not like a, anti-Star Wars for the sake of it, so I don't have to join the group. I would love to love Star Wars. I just don't anymore.
But that's okay.
And it's every chance. I feel like that about Cameron one day. If he sells out and starts making crap films,
right? So I'm just gonna write this down. I'm gonna put it in a vault and lock it up for when Avatar 2 is crap.
Oh, if it is, you won't be hearing from me for a while. I'll be so ashamed. I'll be hiding away.
So how are you feeling? What are your feelings for Avatar 2? How is it? What do you hope for? What do you want to get from this?
Well, I want it to be different enough so that it avoids the accusations that it's Fern Gully, that it's Dances with Wolves. I want it to go off on an original tack, and I think he will. I don't think anything previously was intentional. I did want to see another planet, but I understand that's not going to happen. We're going underwater instead. So that in itself sounds great. It fits in with his exploration of the undersea.
He's recording some of the footage down in the Challenger Deep, isn't he, for this?
Oh, yeah, I didn't know that.
He's actually recording some footage down there for this movie.
He chucked a few mocap guys outside, but they imploded. Yeah. Oh, no. Can we have some more stuntmen, please? Yeah, no, that'd be interesting. That'd be amazing. That'd be really good. I mean, I want it. I'd like to see the space aspect. I don't. You don't. As much as I'd love it, I want people to watch Avatar 2 and have that message about the environment again. You can't hammer it home because it will just become, oh, here we go. You have to be clever, and I think that's where the first one was clever. And hopefully, it'll do that again. And let's face it, we're 9 years on, and we're in a more perilous position now than we were ever in 2009. I mean, when I saw Avatar in 2009, we had 8 inches of snow while we were in the cinema in December the 18th. That's never going to happen now. Not we are going to get extreme weather, but it's more the latest change is 3 times the amount of rain in the winter period. It's not really snow. It's just massive amounts of flooding, which we're seeing. And that's in 9 years. Imagine what Avatar, 9 years from now, exponentially.
Well, by the time Avatar 3 comes out.
Yeah.
we'll be running
we're all screwed, But it is interesting. I just want to be Cameron. Because he can do it every time. No one has faith in Cameron. And aside from him going senile, I can't see he's going to mess anything up.
No, I agree. That's what I say. I think the hype around this movie and the draw that it has been knocked a little bit by the time between movies here. But we are still in pre-production. We haven't seen anything from it yet. We don't really know the lay of the land with regards to the public's view on this yet. We know there's films coming out. We know their titles, and that is it. But I think soon as the first trailer
Trailer.
drops is when we will get our reaction of how the public are going to eat this up and whether or not it's going to be. And they'll probably do that. I reckon there'll be something here that we'll see very early on that will make or break the future of the Avatar series.
Yeah.
They'll bring something out. They'll drop a teaser or something, even a year and a half before that film's coming out, just to test the water to see what people make of it. And they'll make some changes based on that.
And those boilers, those Avatar boilers, will light up and start burning away. And then you're on the train then, aren't you? Where people's, they get on board.
Because I've always seen with Avatar that it's a really strange property, that it's as big as it is with the money it's made. Everyone has seen this movie. If you look at the money it's taken, pretty much like 90% of people that could have seen this movie probably that have access to this movie, have seen it at some point now, especially 9-10 years down the line. But there's no cultural impact. We look at Star Wars, we look at Lord of the Rings, we look at Buffy the Vampire Slayer, we look at all of these big properties in nerddom and geek culture and even popular culture and that, and they have an impact. I walk down the road and I see someone wearing a Star Wars t-shirt, someone with a Sunnydale High top on. Yeah. We see someone with Alice in Wonderland bag, and you see these things that are culturally relevant and they make their impact. But the highest grossing film of all time that is a sci-fi movie, I have never seen any merchandise for it.
And that is a big problem.
One of the questions I was going to ask you about is when have we ever had a film of this caliber have zero merchandise?
Titanic.
Yeah, well, of course.
Yeah, I mean, the trouble
but there is, it's expensive. You can buy the plates and the cups, but they're a few grand each.
We had this whole tribe. We had, we could have had a Sully, a Jake Sully character as a figurine.
There is some, if you look online,
creatures,
Na'vi cosplay. You might want to do it behind closed doors when you're alone at night, because there's some great pictures there. But Na'vi cosplay, have a look at some of that.
I think this worries me more than anything is that if it gets merged, then it's screwed. Because one of the biggest problems I have with movies today, and people don't realise they're being bought out. They're being pushed down a path to buy this crap and then they're on board with it, and then they feel like they're part of something like Star Wars. But really they're just being part of a financial drive.
That's a very good point.
Massive corporation.
That's a very good point.
But then maybe if we look at Cameron's properties that he's made, there isn't much in the way of merchandise generally. And you look at Titanic, and we look at even Terminator. There is some, but it's not.
But it's not a lot.
It's referenced and it's in the popular culture eye, and it's well known that so many people will, quote it and reference it, but rarely do you walk into, say, HMV or anywhere, the collectibles, even Forbidden Planet. You might get your nice big Hot Toy statue, £300 or £400, but they're not 10 a penny Terminator stuff sitting on the shelf. Aliens the same. You might have a couple of collector's pieces, but you don't find a Xenomorph keyring and a Xenomorph, like you do with Star Wars. There's not alien pencil toppers and things. And maybe that's a Cameron thing. Maybe he doesn't want to go down that route. You say, Stephen, about true creators and artists, and maybe that's what it is. He just doesn't want his property out there like that.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think if it goes down that path, we might not have the Avatar we need and want and hope for. But
let's also hope that he keeps the certification of these films to a 12, so that kids can enjoy this, and it doesn't have unnecessary swearing in it. Because that was one of the things that I noticed in Avatar, was there is some cursing in there, which is a great shame, because kids would really get a lot out of this film.
No, because I disagree with that. Because if you go back to the 80s, mate, we've just become soft. Because I watched Goonies the other day, and there is swearing in Goonies. There is the scene with Chunk where he's got the gun. They're pointing a gun at him and they're going to kill him. They've got his hand in the blender. And that wouldn't. Drugs, and it's a PG.
Yeah,
it's a PG.
You know what? You joke about this. I'm currently watching. I love Seinfeld, but I'm a Friends. My wife would kill me. She's Seinfeld, but I love Friends, and I'm currently rewatching the whole thing. I'm on series 9 now. In the last month, I've watched them all. I'm desperate to find one I haven't seen, and I haven't yet. But the point I'm making is, they would never be. It's something as innocuous and innocent as Friends could not be made today.
There is backlash.
It wouldn't work. 6 white people in a group. What?
Yeah. Did you see that when it came, because it's recently been put on Netflix, hasn't it, in the last sort of 4 or 5 months? When that actually dropped, I think it was about a month afterwards, there was actually a lot of backlash online from millennials stating all of these issues about Ross actually is a scumbag. If you look at all the things that he does and how he treats women and how he treats his people under him. And there was so much backlash from millennials, like you say, all this political correctness and, you know, modern views. And there is a time and a place for it. But a lot of people didn't like the way that Friends actually sits in modern culture.
No,
exactly. The main one was 6 white people living in New York doing well for themselves.
I think the sort of the modern day equivalent to Ross is probably Sheldon as well, where we laugh at his sort of naivety, but in actual fact, you know, he's a very cutting.
This is what I'm saying about being soft, Adam. I think even then it was made like that, but people now just don't get it.
No. I think
everyone's so treading on eggshells with everything that they feel like that it's the Family Guy humour. They make racist humour, making fun of the racist, not the race. And people don't always get that. They don't understand that when they make a dead baby joke, they're not making a joke about the dead babies. They're making a joke about the people that put themselves in positions for that, etc., etc.
Yeah. And which is why Ricky Gervais is such a sought-after comedian, because he doesn't do the political correctness. He's not interested in appeasing people. And I think a lot of people, particularly our age, like maybe 30 onwards, have just had enough. If you could take us 3 and put us in a room in 10 years' time and put on a movie that's just come out, we might be sitting there thinking, what has happened? It's over. That's it. The movies are over. Because it will be so dramatically different to even what we used to today, and certainly used to 20 years ago.
People sitting in a room talking, no guns, no drugs, no violence, no.
Well, you know what's happened? You know, the British Film Institute have just said, which is disgusting for an art form, that you're no longer allowed to have bad characters in movies. The bad guy is no longer allowed to be scarred, or they won't fund the movie. Because it's saying that people with scars are always bad. I mean, it's just, you couldn't make it up.
What about if the actor is actually scarred? So you're actually stopping someone from having a job?
They're not going to fund any films where the not the protagonist, the antagonist is got Scar.
Oh, the Lion King. His name is Scar.
You couldn't make it up. But I mean, how can you do that? That's like saying Van Gogh, you know, you can, your paintings have got to do this and that. I mean, it's an expression of art, isn't it? You can't put any conditions on it, or it's no longer an art form.
I don't want to make any bad guys human, because it suggests that all humans are bad guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but they think we are.
No,
it's only because we eat meat, Jeremy, that you think we're bad.
No, I don't have a problem with people that eat meat, really. I see them as a canvas to be painted over.
The tractor. Several times.
I used to eat meat, but I say it to my friends have just literally said to me the other day, they, you know, Paul was always on the podcast, they're now vegan, and you can't explain to someone who isn't vegan what it feels like to be vegan. There's no point like talking at them, like you'll do it until you're blue in the face. It won't make any difference. It didn't make any difference to me.
I was vegetarian for 6 years.
Oh, there you go. See,
I got drunk and ate a kebab. I remember how good it was.
I was a veggie for 30 years, and I realised I might as well have ate meat, because being vegetarian is just pointless, really. You don't know until you become vegan. But now they're vegan. Now they're vegan. They literally wrote me this lovely email saying, "We know what you're talking about. Our lives are like, we're just our eyes are open. We feel like different people. We just can't believe how different we feel." And it's
you've got more time to do stuff, because a steak takes about 4 to 5 minutes to cook properly. That's 4 to 5 minutes a day extra to do things.
Well, you could say that, but the Beyond Meat burger takes about 6 minutes to cook, which is not good for a vegan.
Funny enough,
you want to eat stuff off the vine.
Going back to Avatar, one of the things we didn't, I don't believe we saw, was any of them actually eating anything.
They killed enough stuff, didn't they? They're not vegan.
He had a grub in the special edition, didn't he, Jeremy? Did you see that?
I saw that, and then he got the tongue.
I have seen that, yeah.
Yeah, it's not very good CGI, particularly. The lips have always been
dated.
Yeah, that's not a good scene, and also he doesn't somebody who's never eaten a huge grub, he just goes, oh, look, and it's like, I'd be a bit.
I'm a navvy. Get me out of here.
They don't eat a lot. They don't.
Yeah, but wouldn't you have fun? Wouldn't you have fun if you were in his position? Because that's not actually him. So you could do what you wanted in that body, unplug yourself, and go home and not worry about the repercussions because he's somewhere else.
Aren't you? You still got to taste everything, and you've still got to, go to the bathroom and look at your blue poo and stuff, whatever they've got. I don't know. I'm assuming it's blue.
I'm going on to Avatar Wiki now because I need to know the colour of a Na'vi poo.
It's probably green because the grubs are very green. So I imagine it'd be like a rabbit poo, like very, very, vegetables and
a vegan poo.
No,
Rabbits are vegan. Rabbits are vegan.
Vegans don't poo. That we've risen above all that stuff.
Steve, tell us a little about yourself in terms of where you are on social media, and I know you've got a YouTube channel which promotes a lot of nature and things. So give us your YouTube channel and details and what you're currently up to.
So yeah, I run a channel called Wild About Nature, which is basically mostly building habitats for insects and bees in particular, and hedgehogs we do, and loads of other stuff. And I also make habitats called Habitats, and it's called Happy Tats, where I do it kind of profit free. People ask one who's seen the channel and see what I do, and then
that's HAPI, isn't it?
Yeah, HAPITATS. And I've sent those to Spain and the Netherlands and up north and America, and any profit goes to the World Land Trust, who I've worked with for many years, who literally save rainforests, and they got one of the highest or lowest administration rates of any charity. I think about if you gave them £100, 90% of it would, £90 of it would go straight to charity, which is good. So if you do £100 to them, you save an acre. So at the moment, I think we're on about $4,500. So we've over the years I've saved 45 acres of rainforest, which is
Wonderful.
what I'm trying to do.
Wonderful.
But I'd like to think I've promoted their voice as well outwardly, because they are an amazing charity. David Attenborough is their patron. I actually did a sponsored press-ups or push-ups, you'd call them in America, for charity, and I actually injured my neck permanently from doing it. But I did 1,000 military press-ups in 2 hours, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it certainly is. It is a lot when you planned it 4 months ahead and then realised a month in that you were ready, but you then had to stay at that level for the next 3 months. So I did 40,000 press-ups in the up and coming to it and knackered my neck. So
what's the name of your YouTube channel?
Wild About Nature.
Wild About Nature.
Can I say that my kids watch the channel and they love it?
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. I mean, it goes off the boil in the winter. It's very seasonal because there's not a lot of nature about for me to film, but I've done a few lately. But yeah, it's nice. I want the kids to really be the ones, because they're the future at the end of the day. We're not going to be here in 30 years.
We should teach them well and let them lead the way.
We should, yeah. And give them at least one moment in time.
Come on, they're going to mute part of the podcast again if you carry on with this, right? Spotify don't like it.
But yeah, they are. They are the future at the end of the day, and I like the fact that kids like it. And I do get some good feedback. I'm 10 subscribers away from reaching 1,000 subscribers. I got demonetized, so at the moment, apart from my PayPal Me channel, which is I guess it's www.paypal.me/wildaboutnature, where people donate. All the other money came from my own personal donations and also the views on Google. But since that Wally hung someone in the forest, all the small channels have got demonized and put out of business. So I'm 10 people away from getting
9.
Thank you. 9 subscribers away.
He'll be 8 by the time.
New subscriber. Adam Smith subscribed to your channel. Thank you very much. So I'm 9 subscribers away from reaching 1,000. But even then, once that's done, I then need to do 4,000 views, 4,000 hours in the last 12 months. It's another one they've put on us. So that's even harder. But I think in the spring I'm going to break the back of it, and I'll get remonetized, which would be awesome. So
wonderful.
Yeah. So there's lots.
By the time this podcast comes out, I'm sure that achievement will be well and truly done, and we wish you every success with that.
Thank you very much.
And it's been an absolute joy and having you on, a real honour. Great to see you again, because we last met at the last Jedi screening, and
we did.
Very briefly.
It's been lovely. Thanks for having me. It's been great to talk to you all.
We've been very much looking forward to getting you on.
Hopefully Jeremy will watch Avatar and he'll be like a new man.
Let's hope so.
Maybe not.
We can hope he turns into a new man.
I do watch Avatar.
I have got the Blu-ray special edition if you want to borrow it. So
I will borrow it.
I think that'll be a very good thing for not just for him to watch, but also for his two children.
We'll watch it together.
Yeah, no, we'll have to do that, mate.
8 subscribers.
Oh, fantastic. I'm going to be remonetized before the end of this show.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us on this week's podcast, Steve.
Yeah,
and I'm sure we'll get you on sometime next year when we get some more news from Avatar. Yeah. We'll certainly get in touch, and we can talk about Mr. Cameron a little bit more. Andy,
and also Mr. Cruise. If we're going to do Cameron, we've got to do Cruise as well. Give Jeremy the whole raft of his favourites.
Yeah,
I did. I went to see a Tom Cruise movie with you. Don't forget.
You did. I took you to see Oblivion, didn't I?
No. It was,
the other one, Rinse Repeat, whatever it's called.
Rinse Repeat. Watch on 40.
That was a good movie.
Yeah, right. I didn't hate it too much, so.
We'll watch you. We'll have to get you to watch the vampire one. That's the worst.
I've seen that. I don't mind that one.
Oh, crikey! What's wrong with you?
I don't hate that one. I don't mind Last Samurai. That's all right.
Interview with a Vampire is a masterpiece, Steve.
I've only seen it. I've only seen it twice. It's not my favorite, but maybe I'll watch it again.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, okay.
I would encourage you to watch that.
Okay, I like the Lost Boys, and that's what I use as my litmus kind of test for vampire movies.
Well, that's good. That and Dusk Till Dawn are the two best vampire.
Oh no, you've forgotten the one we watched, which we loved, which was the one with the
one next door.
No, where they use it's a really bad premise, but they give them a blood transfusion from a cow. It's Bill,
I've seen that.
Near Dark.
Near Dark. That's a fantastic vampire movie.
I've seen that.
We're going off on tangents, and Adam's nods, shaking his head like he gave me an out, and I'm still here. I'll leave you guys to it. It was lovely chatting to you.
It's been brilliant, Steve. Thank you for coming, mate.
No worries. Listen, you have a good night. I'll speak soon.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.
This has been a Retro Ink podcast production. Go to our website, retroinkpodcast.co.uk. You can join us on Twitter, Instagram, the Retro Ink Facebook page, and our group, of course. And we have a YouTube channel. Alternatively, you can find us and many other podcasts.
Pretending he knows it all.
At StarWarsCommonwealth.com. Podcasts such as Took Star Wars, Tumbling Saber, The Nerd Drift, Generation X-Wing, Rogue Squadron, San Diego Sabres, Radio Podcast, Skyhoppers Podcast, The
Tatooine sounds so good.
Less than 12 parts.
Less than 12 parts.
And of course, listen to ourselves at the Retro
Ink podcast.
Jeremy,
hello.
Thanks for joining us on this week's show.
I can only apologise for my audio system.
We've had some audio problems, but it's great. Andy, enjoy your new TV.
I will.
You got this week. Are you planning to watch anything on that this week? Of interest at all?
I've watched a couple of things this week, but we'll talk about that in the next podcast.
Yeah.
I haven't really got anything planned to watch, to be honest with you, mate. Not unless you two can throw a little gem at me like They Live Again. I'm still haven't watched anything that's sort of engrossed me like that.
Well, we can certainly discuss that on our next show. But for now, thanks very much for listening to this week's podcast. I hope you enjoyed our Avatar special and with our special guest Steve. Formerly of Talk Star Wars. We've been Retro Ink. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye. Be seeing you. That's what I say. Don't say bye, do I?